How you doing? Today we're going to talk about a few things that you can keep in the trunk of your vehicle in case of a winter emergency. All right, so I'm going to be breaking this down into a few different parts. So if you haven't watched the other parts, make sure you start at part 1 and work your way through. A lot of great information in here. I've tried to keep it somewhat high level, but also explaining why, how to use things. Just with all this equipment, you want to make sure you know how to use it, why you have it. Educate yourself, because there's going to be times where you're not going to be able to rely on emergency help right away. In my area, even around homes, it takes about 15-20 minutes to for the average response time, and that's during normal times. If these first responders, they're humans too. They, if the roads are incredibly bad, it might be hours, possibly a day or two before someone's able to respond or find you or something. So all these videos are here to help you to survive and get home to your families. And so take the time, learn how to use the equipment. Keep this equipment in your vehicles, and it could save you or a family member or somebody else someday. So, I'm happy to share the knowledge I have. If there's anything else you want to know about, let me know, and I'll be glad to do a video on it. One thing I always have with me as well is a med kit. So, in terms of what goes in here, this could be an entirely whole video on itself. So I'm not going to get into details on this right now, particularly because it also depends on your own knowledge, experience, and comfort level of addressing certain medical situations. But you would always have it. It's like a boo-boo kit, right? Cold hands crack, bleed, just like bump bruises, things like that. So bandages, Neosporin, iodine wipes, basically things to clean and cover wounds. I also always keep these Mylar blankets, Survivable Blankets, Space Blanket, whatever you want to call it. Tons of names, but even more uses. Again, they keep you incredibly warm because they're trapping the heat in from leaving and creating basically like a heat bubble around you. They can be used, they're super shiny, so they can be used almost as like a signal mirror. And yeah, they can also be used for cover, shelter if you really need it. So I always keep this actually in my med kit because oftentimes as well is people, if they go into shock, that's going to drop body temperature, and shock can kill somebody before medical help arrives as well. So having that just in general medical kits is also super beneficial. And then if you are CPR certified, obviously you're not going to need that for yourself, but if you do come across somebody else that needs it, having that CPR mask handy. You're not going to be able to prep for everything, but you want to make sure that you really figure out the most common issues you're going to run into and be prepared for that. Winter time, it gets colder. Cold temperatures kill battery life a lot faster than warmer temperatures. It's one of the things that, aside from a flat tire, which make sure you know where your spare tire is. A lot of times vehicles, it'll be in the trunk. SUVs, it'll be underneath the vehicle where it drops down, but know where the point is to lower down that down the spare tire. Know where your jack is, lug wrench, all that stuff. Know how to change a tire. But the other thing is dead batteries. That's a very common issue in the winter. So there's a couple options here for you. This is what are known as jumper cables. Not many people have these in their vehicle, which is incredibly surprising. I've jumped a few vehicles where they didn't have any, and I pulled these out. And they're nice to have if people are out and about and you do have a dead battery. You can have jumper cables. The other option as well, because honestly we live in a time, there's a lot of sickos out there. So if you are, women, you'd have to honestly deal with that. I'm a 270-pound man. I don't have to worry about that as much. But even So having a stranger help you can be an issue or be a concern, and it should be. You got to watch yourself. But so they have these as well. And aside from even just having to rely on somebody else to jump you, you know, if you're in a more deserted areas, back roads, things like that, this can jump your vehicle. I've had this for 5 years or so, and I've probably used it like 8 times. A few times on mine, my battery was starting to go, colder temperatures. So my battery would work fine all day, but in the morning I would have to jump it. So I was actually on a road trip when that happened. So until I could get to an area where I could change my battery, I relied on this. And these things are badass. They're so amazing. I've jumped other people with it, jumped my vehicle a few times. It has USB ports as well. So tons of different brands out there. This one's Swoki. I'm honestly not too sure how to pronounce it. But I would recommend this one from personal use. I'm not endorsed or anything by them. This is just one I've used, and that's held up really well. And then you can charge it in your vehicle as well as a wall outlet in your home. So again, this is great if you're going, you know, if you work late nights and you often are in a parking lot by yourself, if you're scared for asking strangers for help, I just highly recommend these. These are great gifts as well. And going back to the flat tire, is fix a flat. So these are great to have if you run over a nail, there's a tiny puncture on the area where your tire hits the road. This will fix it, it'll pump it right up, and you'll be good to go. If it's a sidewall thing, if you're going and you hit a curb and puncture the side of your tire, you are gonna have to change your tire. But any of those smaller punctures, this can definitely be a lot faster than changing out the tire completely. Funnel, so that little gas tank does have a nozzle to it, but this is great if you have other like fluids that you need to put in, windshield washer fluid, it can be power brake fluid or power steering fluid, excuse me, things like that. Just be mindful of what you've put in here already, especially if you're putting gasoline. You don't want to have anything else in there that can get in your tank. And really, this should be like a one-use thing. I got this at the dollar store for literally $1. So, if you use it, stick with whatever you use that for, and not try to mix things, especially gasoline. If something is in there before gasoline. Now we talk about all these things, fixing your vehicle, changing the tire, this and that. That's great when it's the daytime and you can see, but at night you're gonna need some help. So I always have a flashlight with me and a headlamp. Headlamps are great. I used to make fun of my dad all the time for wearing a headlamp, but as I've gotten older, I definitely see the benefit. You have both hands. You don't have to stick the flashlight in your mouth and drool everywhere and all over yourself. You can have visibility, and you can use both hands at the same time. I like the ones that have both the whites. This one has a few modes here, but also the red. So red light, it doesn't mess with your night vision. So as you'll notice with white light, when you turn it on and turn it off, your eyes have to readjust to the darkness. Red light, it does not have to do that. So I do like that for both. So flashlight's important. Another tool that I never leave the house without is a knife. So this is one, there's tons of different knife options. I mean, you have a folding knife, which I think that'd be fine for most things that you're gonna run into. Fixed blade. So tons of different options, whatever you feel comfortable with. I like this one, and there's tons of other brands like this, but it has a seatbelt cutter right here. And then it also has a glass breaker. So where you hit it there, that little point, a lot of pressure going to one little point, it's gonna shatter the glass. You see all these movies where they wrap the towel around their hand and they punch the glass like it's nothing. And I'll tell you what, glass on car doors is incredibly strong. So especially if you're, under a lot of stress, if you go off the road into a lake, frozen lake, and the ice breaks and you're sinking, good luck finding something wrapped around your hand, shattering it, and getting out in time before you start going down. So that's why I always have that within hand reach. You obviously don't want to have that in the trunk because that's not going to do shit for you if it's in the trunk and you need to cut your seatbelt off to get it. So always have that. I mean, glove compartment might be too far for some people, so maybe having a spot in the center console or something like that, somewhere where you can easily grab it, even if the seatbelt's completely as tight as you can and locked up. You should be able to grab that thing. I can go into some other things with the like sinking, potentially running into a body of water in your vehicle sinking. We'll talk more about that in a future video. But there's usually, when you think about going on ski trips up to the mountains, there's a lot of lakes, lots of bodies of water, and once you hit that water, if you don't get that window down, you're gonna have to crack it, or you're gonna have to wait till you go completely under, and we'll get into more details of that. But having that windshield breaker or the ice glass breaker right there is gonna save you a lot of time and a lot of stress and potentially your life. So let's go into a couple other comfort goods